Forbidden Meanings, Episode 4, Witchcraft. They burned women for it. They hung men for it. They accused neighbors, friends, even family of it. They called it witchcraft. To hear the word is to conjure images of black cats, bubbling cauldrons, sinister spells, and pale-faced women dancing under the moon. Witchcraft, the very embodiment of evil. At least, that's how you've been taught to think of it. But here's the forbidden truth. Witchcraft did not begin as evil. It did not even begin as sorcery. The word once meant wisdom, knowledge, and healing, and the great irony is this. What was once honored as sacred power became cursed as satanic threat, a flip that cost countless lives, and one that still shapes the way we treat knowledge, and especially women, today. The ancient meaning. The word witch comes from Old English wiki, female, and wicca, male, both drawn from the Proto-Germanic root wick, meaning to bend, shape, or turn. It was connected to those who had the skill to shape reality, through herbs, through rituals, through words. In its earliest forms, witchcraft was not about demons, it was about practice. The word craft simply meant skill, art, or trade. So witchcraft literally meant the craft of shaping, the skill of bending. Who were these witches? They were healers, midwives, herbalists, seers. They used plants to cure illness, knowledge of the stars to guide planting and harvests, charms and prayers to ease childbirth. They were the keepers of oral wisdom, the guardians of folk tradition. In early Anglo-Saxon texts, witches were sometimes feared, sometimes respected, but never reduced to the caricature we know today. Witchcraft was simply the art of the wise, the demonization. So what happened? The church rose, the state tightened its grip, and knowledge outside their control became dangerous. By the late Middle Ages, Christian authorities began to equate witches with heretics. Manuals like the Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer of Witches, 1487, branded witchcraft as a satanic conspiracy. Herbal remedies became potions, midwives became baby killers, folk healers became consorts of the devil. The persecution was merciless. Tens of thousands were executed across Europe and the New World, most of them women. The word witchcraft became a weapon, an accusation you could not escape. Once branded a witch, you were as good as dead. What was once healing became heresy. What was once wisdom became wickedness. The craft of shaping life was painted as a pact with death. The modern flip today, the word witchcraft lives in paradox. On one hand, it's still whispered with fear. Movies and sermons equate it with darkness, curses, demons. On the other hand, it's been reclaimed by modern spiritual movements like Wicca, which embrace the original sense of connection to nature, cycles, and sacred knowledge. But for most people, the shadow still dominates. Witchcraft is shorthand for forbidden power, for danger, for something to be mocked or feared. And yet, strip away the propaganda and you see something different. Witchcraft was never about evil. It was about autonomy. It was about people, often women, holding knowledge outside the reach of the church and state. And that was the true threat. A scene of fire. Picture this. A village square, cobblestones wet with rain. A wooden stake stands in the center. A woman bound in ropes, her hair wild, her face pale but resolute. The crowd jeers. The priest lifts his hand. A torch is lit. Flames climb. They say she is a witch. They say she called on the devil. They say her craft is cursed. But listen closer. In her satchel were herbs for healing, prayers for protection, remedies for the sick. She was a midwife, a healer, a wise woman. Her only crime, knowledge that frightened men who craved control. The fire roars. Her scream pierces the night. The word witchcraft is seared into memory as evil incarnate. But the truth is burning before your eyes. The power of words. This is the power of corruption. To take a word that once meant skill and wisdom and twist it into death. To turn midwives into monsters, to turn healers into heretics. And the echo of that corruption still lingers. Even now, when someone says witchcraft, the first thought is not healing, but horror, not wisdom, but wickedness. Ask yourself, who benefits from that? Who gains when people fear the very ones who carry knowledge? Witchcraft became forbidden not because it was evil, but because it was powerful. Modern meaning versus true meaning. Today, witchcraft exists in two worlds. In the popular imagination, it's still darkness and danger. In spiritual circles, it's a return to roots, honoring the earth, the cycles, the craft of shaping life. But the true meaning sits deeper. Witchcraft is the craft of shaping reality. The art of bending the world with skill, knowledge, and intention. Call it prayer, call it magic, call it science. At its root, it is the same. To bend is to shape. To shape is to create. That is witchcraft, and that is why it was feared. Question. So the next time you hear the word witchcraft, ask yourself, are you hearing the truth or the propaganda of those who burned the wise to silence them? Because next time we're unlocking another word twisted by fear, a word that once simply meant hidden, but has been branded as demonic. The word is occult.